So, how are we? Yeah, I know. I never finished those videos. I'm going to finish them. It's just trying to get all this sorted out. So, yeah. But, to just tie you over, the other day, my sister gave me a bag of things. So, yeah, we're going to go through those things. But first, I need to do a minor explanation, because this is just something that I've got a bit of a joke with my mum about. Every year, I try and set myself a quota for Transformers to get a hold of. Now, that's not to mean brand new Transformers. No, this is a quota for second-hand Transformers. So, essentially the idea is, if I find it in a charity shop, or a car boot sale, or I am given it, it counts towards the quota. But, if I actively buy it from either eBay or from someone I know, then unfortunately it does not count. Mainly because that means I've actively sought after it. Whereas, if it's from a charity shop or a car boot sale or being given, then therefore it is a spontaneous acquisition. It was something that I wasn't expecting to find, but just obtained. So that would count towards the quota. But buying it from eBay or from a friend or from a shop, well, aside from charity shop, that counts as actively obtaining it because you are looking for it. So anything I bought from eBay to that degree, like Magnaboss or the Devastator, doesn't count. But things such as Cybertron Crankcase and can't remember what it is, G2 Deluge, which my mum found, those do actually count towards the quota because they were obtained from a charity shop. They were not expected to be found, so they count for that. So, last year the quota was 3. I end up getting about 5 figures. So, this year's quota was meant to be 5 to 6, because with the quota, I set the number. If I exceed that number, I then increase it for the next year, but if I don't meet it, I decrease it for the next year. Since I met the number last year and exceeded it, I increase it this year. Here's the thing. Since my sister gave me a bag of things, that's kind of elevated the quota. So let's go over the things, shall we? First, yeah, it's not complete, not by any means, because it is missing the back thruster. It is missing any kibbly bits that are meant to be on top. It's missing the canopy, and it is missing a figure or two. I think it's meant to come with 2 little figures because it's got 2 little cockpits, but I'm not sure. It does have Han, but no head, but no Chewie. So, yeah. It's just all of its plastic, well, the gold plastic, aside from one piece, is intact. Surprisingly enough, I'm actually surprised this thing is intact. It's just, unfortunately, this bit right here, you'd think that's grey plastic. No, it's gold plastic. Well, it's metallic plastic painted grey. It's convincing to look like grey plastic, because unless you're looking right at the two things, you wouldn't really notice. But why just that one piece right in the front is metallic plastic? Why not make that solid grey plastic as well? It would make more sense. It's just, I moved it ever so slightly, and it just snapped. So I had to glue that back together. So hopefully it stays intact. But yeah. I have the Crossovers Millennium Falcon. I don't care if it's not complete. This thing is wonderful. I'm going to try and enjoy it as long as I can. But that does mean I'm going to be very careful with it. Next up, yeah, my second Energon Ultra Magnus. Only has the one shin, so yeah, but it has the head. So I'm going to leave my one up there with the impromptu head, but now I've got the actual head. So, yeah. He is missing the little guns that are meant to fold out, and he is missing the hitch part. So, unfortunately, he cannot become a target master, and he can't, well, tow this thing in alt mode. But overall, this is a fun figure, to be fair. I have absolutely no love for Ultra Magnus at all, and yet I have G1 Magnus, 2 of this, and I've got Universe Voyager Magnus. I have no love for Ultra Magnus, and yet I have 4. But seeing as I've got nearly 13 Optimus Prime figures, and I hate Optimus Prime. Kind of strange how that works, isn't it? So essentially in my collection, the number of figures I have determines how much I hate them. So by that very logic, the fact that I have only about 6 to 9 Megatrons means that I love that figure, but 13 Primes means I hate it. But by that very same logic, I've got 2 Snaptraps, and that's my holy grail. That is my absolute favourite Transformer. So yeah. He's got the head. I'm happy. It's got the head. Speaking of Optimus Primes, here is Deluxe Fatimus Prime with the Requiem Blaster. Why is this guy made with clear plastic? Like, seriously? Why? He's already missing a foot, and the foot that is there is already broken. Because I moved it very slightly, and the top half of the foot cracked off. So, yeah. This guy also has a clear plastic core torso, and his shoulders are also clear plastic. Why? But at least I now have another figure that can become pants. Because that means I can turn Toe Line into a pair of pants and give this guy pants. You're not meant to use Energon Towline as pants, figure-wise. You're only meant to use him as an upper torso. Mainly because they planned for you to actually use his lower vehicle mode, base station, as the pants for a centaur mode. Unfortunately, it's more fun just to use the main figure as the pants. Just way more fun. So, yeah. No, this guy's not complete at all. He is missing the weapons. And he is obviously missing a foot. I now have the Requiem Blaster, which the missile, well, the rocket, is missing one of its arms. So you can see right through the thruster section, it's missing a part. And the Satellite Boy is missing a leg. But that's not a big deal because I already had the Satellite one up there. So I can just swap that out. The funny part is, this Minicon right here is, funnily enough, the most complete one out of the entire bag. And I do mean figure-wise, it was the most complete figure out the entire bag. Next up, Movio 7 Larricade. Yeah, it's the silver and blue barricade. No feet. Or frenzy. No frenzy. So at some point I'm going to have to fashion some feet. Hopefully I've got some ball sockets that will actually fit those parts. Push comes to shove, I'm going to have to do some major modification, but hopefully I can just try and make some feet. Yeah. I have another Decepticon, so that's good. There, funnily enough, for some reason, was a piece of the deluxe Megatron that goes with the Prime, but I didn't get the Megatron. There were also these parts for the Battleizer Ninja Storm Justin, and I finally have the arms to the Morphing Racer Megazord. So that's pretty sweet. So now I've got a mini Aberleno. Oh, speaking about Tokusatsu news, Shodo Roki. We finally have a new Zenaku. I am so happy. I don't care if it's really tiny. I just want it because it's a little Zenaku. I have been wanting a decent Zenaku figure for years. We were never going to get a figure art. Plain and simple. Even though villain figures can sell. It's just they don't sell well in Japan unless they're a video game character. Or if they're an anime character. But no, if you want a particular character from Super Sentai or from Kamen Rider, no, can't be a villain figure, not unless it's got prevalence. Zenaku was kind of the reason I liked watching Wild Force most of the time. Granted, Wild Force is one of my absolute favourite series. It really is a wonderful series to watch. The scripting, the dialogue, the characters, brilliantly on point. No forced comedy, it was partially situational, the dialogue fit, it wasn't forced. It felt like they were actually people trying to deal with the situation and just go along with it. Whereas with current generation, it's just, they're trying a little bit too hard. Comedy is not funny. The dialogue is just, it's crap. It doesn't work. It really doesn't work. It looks better, but it doesn't feel better. The atmosphere of the show is just different. It really is different. So, yeah. I do also have the Megatron tank. It is under here. Ah. So I do have the mini Megatron tank. It does fire the missile, but it also does make the shooting sound, and make the clanging sound. My Energon Megatron is currently in a box under my table. I do not have the sword, so I'm probably going to have to fashion that. But I am getting close to having a complete Megatron. So, yeah. There's that. Next up, Alternators Swindle. Now, in Gavin Spencer's video, he said there are two types of collectors when it comes to alternators. The ones that will tell you you should have gone for such and such figure over such and such figure, but then there are also the ones that would say should have gone for the Binaltech. Well, I'm more inclined to simply say, as a whole, a good number of alternators weren't good. Because they looked wonderful. They really looked wonderful. But they were not toy friendly. For example, my alternator smokescreen, the shoulders. Try and hold it up. Droops. It doesn't peg into place anywhere. There's nothing on the inside of the torso that holds the shoulder joint in place. Literally, there is nothing there. Whereas this guy, it's a similar situation where the hood is just too far forwards in robot mode, but this guy's legs are brilliantly articulated. Absolutely wonderful. His arms are absolute shite. Because whereas on the smokescreen they fold from under the hood, so it can actually get better articulation, posing, and it's easy to actually fold them all in. This one folds from the inside. So you have to open the hood and fold them up. It's really tricky to actually get them to go in and pull them out. But then there's also another problem. Yeah, you see that black strut at an angle on the hinge? Yeah, that's the shoulder joint. These things have stunted articulation because of that. Because the joint is at an angle, it impedes the movement so the arm can't go back. It makes it hard to actually move it forwards, and it's really tricky to actually move it up. There might be particular ways of moving the joint to actually do that, but as it stands, that's not a good way of doing it. I can get what they were trying to go for, it's just, it's not a good way of doing it. Now, you may have noticed he's missing a foot. He is missing a foot. So, yeah. It's literally snapped right off. So, at some point, I'm going to have to either try and find another buggered one that's got that foot and replace the part, or just fashion some new feet. Which, it's not a big deal, it's just marginally annoying. He is mostly complete outside of no gun, so he ain't got the weapon. Which, to be fair, I don't particularly mind. It's a very nice little Jeep, along with the fact it has suspension. Now, when it comes to suspension on a toy like this, your first thought is, why? But then your brain says, why not? But then you get onto the figures that have steering, and you really do have to question why. Because your brain's not going to say, why not to that? Because there really isn't a point to the steering. Because, now, at the end of the day, this is a toy. This is meant to be played with. Now, with the ones with the steering, what's the point of the steering? Now, if it were for display reasons, then okay. But when you've got it as the vehicle and you want to play with it as a kid, the steering doesn't make much sense, because if you're moving it around, the wheels aren't going to turn when you try and turn it. You'd have to manually grab the wheel and turn it. But then that kind of breaks the illusion of it having working steering that you can fiddle with. Now, if it actually did the Lego method of having a little gear on the top that you could just turn and it would move the wheels, then using the Hand of God, technically it's the Hand of God or Knob of God steering method. It's a weird joke, but having a little thing to actually control the steering would have made sense there. Along with the fact they could have done that. Very easily could have done that. And yes, they could have. It wouldn't have taken that much to engineer. It's literally a simple rod with a swing arm connected to the actual swing arm that holds the two parts in place with a magnet. Literally. The smoke screen, its steering is held in place by a magnet. It would have been so easy to have just done a simple knob on a rod with a swing arm attached to it that moved it from side to side. It would have been so easy. But no, they didn't. But that's when it comes to the steering, it just doesn't make any sense. But the suspension, why not? That's fine. Sorry, but just when it comes to alternators, I really do have to question why. I'm all for higher end figures, it's just I'm a function over aesthetics person. I want it to do something really well, not look really well. So it's kind of why I don't collect masterpieces, because, well, they don't transform that well. Well, the current masterpiece ones don't. Earlier ones, like MP01, that transformed brilliantly. And MP10, yeah, that worked. But now we're up to, what, MP60? Near 100? Plastic quality issues? Yeah, I ain't touching that. Then there's also the stupidity of a bunch of superficial little pieces that really don't need to move at all. It's just, you don't need to move that piece. That bit right there doesn't need to move. This piece is just connected to that. That doesn't need to move at all. This piece literally just folds around to hide that. It doesn't need to do that. It really doesn't. Function over aesthetics. I want it to do something good, not look good. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, this thing just looks gorgeous. Energon Landmine. He is missing the crane, but I can forgive that. This thing is beautiful. It is a plough tracked crane. I'll say that again. A plough tracked crane. That is awesome. And you cannot tell me otherwise. Because plain and simple, vehicles like this are just, ooh, they are right up my alley. It is this aesthetic that I love from the UT. The weird vehicles. Now, you can keep your Lamborghinis, your Porsche, or even your Countach. You can keep all of that. Plain and simple. Give me this. This balls to the wall, weird vehicles that just look beautiful. Just this is the kind of thing I was hoping for in Siege. This kind of absolute mechanical and aesthetic abomination. But no. All we got was a tank, a semi-tetrajet, a Volkswagen Beetle, a kind of Warthog off-roader, and a kind of futuristic Countach. Yeah. Siege was all about being on Cybertron. This is more Cybertronian than a Volkswagen Beetle. Yeah. I was really hoping for something like this to be in Siege. But no, we just got G1. Again. And again. And again. And again. This is like, what, the 7th or 9th year of G1. It is really disappointing because I'm a UT fan. this is the kind of thing I love. And, well, in Legacy we're meant to be getting a new Armada Starscream. I am really hoping we get a new Armada Prime. Because, yes, I know that in 2019 they showed a prototype off in Toy Fair. Alongside that stupid, absolute abomination of a Star Convoy. That thing wasn't a Star Convoy, it was Power Master Optimus Prime pretending to be Star Convoy. It's just, seriously, Evolutions Prime. It's literally Power Master Optimus Prime, but it was never turned into Jinrai. It would have worked so well as a Jinrai, but no, they never turned it into Jinrai. Instead, they turned it into Star Convoy. It doesn't even look like Star Convoy. Armada Optimus Prime looks more like Star Convoy. Well, his vehicle mode is literally based upon it. And that old Action Master truck. But I digress. Hopefully we get an Armada Prime in Legacy, because I would love to have an update of that figure. Mainly because I really can't get a hold of Naval Commander. I can't. That's way too expensive. I'd love to have one, but I can't get one. But yeah. This kind of thing is the exception to my rule of function over aesthetics, because this thing is a toy. It is meant to be played with. This thing can take a beating. And now we get on to the final thing. Yeah. I have Energon Tidal Wave. I have the freaking Dark Fleet. Look at this motherfucker. Look at this motherfucker. My only complaint is that he's got no knees. It's just, if he had knees, this would be a wonderful figure, because it already has that, but then it's got articulated digits. So you can move the thumb, and you can move the little hand. Come on. Doesn't want to move on that one. Yeah, you can move the little digits. Now, if he had knees, then that would elevate this figure up so much. But that's unfortunately as far as it can do. And there is enough space for a knee joint. Just shave off the plastic here and input a hinge joint. Just put one of those right there. Plain and simple. Or what they could have done was remove this section here and then put another of that joint just right where it actually connects here, so that it can still hinge outwards, but it had that motion right there, so it could be a hinge, just for a knee. That's rather simple. And this guy is not complete at all. He is missing the little wing fins, but what he does have what he did have is his little Minicon. He does have the little Minicon. So yeah, this thing I have rarely just let sit down. This thing is just fun. Along with the fact, you don't have to separate it to transform it into its full form. You can separate him into the Dark Fleet itself, or you can have him as the big-ass battleship. But then you can transform him from robot mode into the big-ass battleship, all as is. That is gorgeous. That is absolutely gorgeous. And I would have loved if it was possible to actually get a modulator slash weaponizer of this. Because, alright, taking into account, this guy combines with Armada Megatron. Take that into account, and then apply that to a weaponizer. It would fit so well. You could just get 3 modulators or weaponizers that formed individual little robot figures, but then could be rearranged to form one of the 3 Dark Fleet. And then when you put all 3 together, you could put together Tidal Wave's ship mode or Tidal Wave's giant robot mode. Now that would be awesome. The only problem is it's never going to happen. But this is one of the few characters I can imagine it would actually make sense. Because he already does that. He separates and becomes armor from Megatron. Though, something that the fandom did learn about a few years ago was that... Come on, let go. That is the same joint used on Cybertron, Optimus Prime, and Megatron. So, that means you could either give Tidal Wave lion arms, or you can give Optimus and Megatron boat arms. I am very inclined to give him boat arms. That also means you could do something really stupid by actually having him with, having Optimus with boat arms just sticking off to the side in vehicle mode. because as long as you don't put those chest windows over the sides, then the port's still exposed in vehicle mode. So you could have a battleship-armed fire truck. That's stupid and fun, and it's the kind of thing I do. It's just... that is awesome. Look how big this motherfucker is. It's bigger than my noggin. It's literally bigger than my head. And that's saying something. But yeah. That was the haul that I got from the bag from my sister. Now, taking that into account, back to the topic of the quota. This kind of makes it a bit of a problem, because counting the mini-cons, and yes, I do count the mini-cons, because you could buy packs of mini-cons of 3, so that counted. And then there were also some mini-cons you could buy individually, so yeah, I do count a mini-con as an individual figure. Even though they're an accessory figure, they do still count because they are fully transforming figures. Taking that into account, there was the 3 from the Requiem Blaster, the Optimus Primes, that's 4. This guy and his Minicon, 6. Swindle, 7. Landmine, 8. Magnus and his Minicon, so 10. Barricade, 11. And the Millennium Falcon, Han and Chewie, 13. 13 second-hand figures. Now, going back to the quota, as in the rule of if I exceed my quota, I have to increase the quota. Taking into account, the year is still in the first month. And due to not even my own doing, I've already exceeded the quota. And then some. The dilemma is this. Since the year hasn't even really begun, do I increase the quota for this year, or do I increase the quota for next year? Or do I reset the quota back down to 3 for this year, and then see how it goes this year onto next year? That's probably what I'm going to do, but I'm going to see how this year goes. It's just 13. You know, it's even funnier when you know that 13 is my lucky number. Yeah, Friday the 13th is my lucky day. I have a necklace right there, hanging up, which, funnily enough, it can either say B, or it can say 13. So, yeah. Along with the fact, every now and then, I'll just turn around and 13 is a prevalent number for some things. Like the 13 primes. Why 13? It's just a prevalent number for me. So, 13 figures from a bag from a charity shop. Yeah. We're gonna have to see what happens this year, because it hasn't even started. But yeah, hopefully I can maybe get some form of video by here done. It's just... this is what I've got so far. This bit of wood here extends to the back of the table. So the plan is to have this and this clear to actually use as one big desk. Now, I know the more logical thing would be to just get a desk that's literally that shape, but that would require actually having somewhere that I can go that's local, that actually has desks like that, and ones that would actually fit. So, yeah. And most likely or not, they wouldn't, and I'd have to get it custom done, and that would cost a little bit too much money. So, I'd rather work with what I have, and then try and get an actual desk, because I need to get an actual desk for all of this, because I'm just using a cylindrical table right now, and, well, my keyboard is by here, my mouse is by here. It's really awkward because I'm right-handed, and when I type, I predominantly use my right hand. But with the keyboard over here, it's really not conducive. So, yeah, along with the fact my two monitors, one is higher than the other, and I've got a speaker resting on the one monitor, and another speaker resting on the computer itself. So, yeah, I need an actual desk that's got the little shelving bit behind it. Then I could put the speakers up there, put the computer itself down below, and then have the keyboard front and center with the mouse to the side. That's more conducive to actually having as a setup. But until then, this is what I have to work with, and I need to get this sorted out. So, yes, I know, I've got a lot of shit I'm doing. There's also that thing right there I'm working on. Yes, I'm still working on that. If you've paid any attention to any of the videos I've been uploading, you know that that's a little thing that's just grating on my mind that I want to finish. So, yeah. That. This has been Will Kaiser Drake, signing off.